Well, hello coloring fans, it's Christine at CLAldridgeArt, and I come to you today with a new coloring adventure. Today I'm going to be coloring the new drawing that I did just finish and put in my Etsy shop last week. It is available for purchase there, and I'm going to be doing a background with my Tim Holtz Distress inks and coloring today with my lovely CaliArts. Stay tuned and we'll get started. Welcome back. For those who don't know me, I'm Christine Aldridge. I am the artist in residence. I do draw coloring books. This is my latest book, Dragons, Flowers, and Mandalas, Oh My. It is available at Amazon or in my Etsy shop. The Etsy shop version is a PDF, instant download, as all of my books, 12 of them, I believe now, are available, as are all of the individual drawings. You can also follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you do love to color beautiful things, I would love to have you as a subscriber, and if you wanted to, ring the bell for notifications of all of my new videos. Now, I am starting with the Tim Holtz Distress Inks linen color. I am using the narrowest applicator that is available through them. Generally, any sponge type applicator will work for this, and so I am just going right over the stems with just a light layer. This is water-based ink, and just adding a little bit of a background. I think it's a nice touch to add a little bit of finish to a background. The applicator is in motion long before I actually touch it to the page, and that is to keep it from blotching. But you can use one of these page protectors. In this case, that's what I'm using, the backside of one of my coloring book page protectors, and I am just diffusing the ink onto that before I apply it, and it helps also with the splotching. Now, an example is coming up of what that splotching actually looks like when I try to do this with the dark sepia. And as you can see, it does look a little splotchy. That is a look that can be very effective if that's the look that you're going for. In this particular case, it is not bad, but it's not what I wanted, and so I've diffused it once again onto the plastic. It should be noted that I will make that a bit darker of a background, but this was a good starting point. Now, I am choosing two CaliArt markers. That's the brand I'm working with today. In this case, I'm choosing the Y710, which is the, I believe it's called Pearl White. And I'm also choosing the R503, which is the pastel pink. Together, these do make a beautiful dusty rose color. And dusty rose is an old tapestry type color. And in this case, it's the perfect application because I am going for an old tapestry coloring palette. I believe that when I was drawing this, I was going for a vintage look. And so I did think that a vintage color palette would be the way to go on it. Now, I do color with markers a little differently than a lot of people, in that I do like to use strokes, and I'm not much for solid fills, and I like to work with the light on the page as my light reflection. So this is a good start and a good base for these flowers to have this sort of light dusty rose. I will proceed to do the rest of the flowers here, and I'll get progressively darker with the pinks as I go along. In marker coloring especially, it is to me, the best way to work it is light to dark. That way I can use the layers underneath to both darken the color that I am putting over it, but also as you know, leaving a bit of it behind in the centers and things like that. It adds to that reflected light illusion, because remember that is all you're doing with coloring, is you are fooling the eye into believing that there is a curve there or that something is three-dimensional, and you're doing that with the use of white space or light space in this particular case. And now you will notice that this video is somewhat sped up. I really don't color this fast, and that is done primarily because by the time that you get to the third flower on something, you pretty well demonstrated how it's done. It does get not faster, but certainly bigger bigger space between the cut as this video goes along. But I wanted to give you guys the general idea of how to achieve these effects with these particular tools. And if you would leave a comment below and let me know what you think of this format. It is still relatively new to me. I used to color only in real time, but I find that the shorter, more demonstrative videos both are watched more and have a greater audience retention. So that sort of tells me that this is more the video that most of you like to see. So if you have opinions on that, please do put them in the comments below. I do like to read those opinions and as many of them as I can answer. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to do that. This particular drawing, I was asked how would I color it because it is a little outside the style that I normally draw in. I usually draw open space without the shading, and this time I sort of went a little more inky, added a bunch of line art. I was practicing pretty much a woodcut type botanical drawing, and so that explains the lines. And so this video, Barb, this one is for you. Now, since I do like to answer questions, and I will interject with what I'm doing as I go along, I was asked by another longtime viewer of my channel how it was that I actually came to be an artist. If you are new to my channel, one of my new subscribers, and did not visit the initial videos that I made when I first started, I'm happy to go over that. I am 60 years old. I did not draw anything until I was 56. So I spent a lifetime in the corporate world in business and came to drawing somewhat late. Or came to art of any kind somewhat late. I have always been creative, but it's always been in the things like knitting, crocheting, sewing, and that putting projects together, organizing, things like that. So those types of things, creating posters or for events, whatever needed doing, I'm always happy to do it. But drawing was not something that was in my box of tools at all. But I believe it was my 56th birthday, for some reason, well, I know the reason, but that's not important. I was in a very deep depression. And for those who suffer with depression, you know that you are desperate. You're aware of your predicament and you are desperate to get out of it. You just can't find a way. Well, art provided me that way, and I was just sitting there one day and I got a wild hair that said, you need a spirograph. And for those young enough to not know what a spirograph is, it was a toy that was made by Hasbro or Mattel, I don't remember which one, but it's an art toy. It was, and they still sell them, so perhaps you have one in your home. But it is it's got these plastic rings with holes in them. You put a pen in the ring and run it around, run around a thing on these teeth, and it makes various patterns. So I went and bought myself the most expensive deluxe spirograph that Toys R Us had, and I set about playing. And I played for an afternoon, and I thought, I wonder if their website has any pattern, has like a picture book of all the patterns that you can make with all of the holes in any one of these rings, because there's dozens of them. It would take you a lifetime to run through all of the holes in all of the different rings and all of the sizes. And I ran across a video. It wasn't even posted there on the Spirograph website, that was linked by a commenter who was asking a particular question. And it was called How to Draw a Mandala. And it was here on YouTube, so I tuned into it. And it showed a lady who, she said, you start with a seed, and she drew a little circle, and you draw with intent. And then she proceeded to make this absolutely stunningly gorgeous mandala, and I was hooked. That was it for me. I put down my spirograph and I picked up a pen and a blank piece of paper and a ruler, and because I like things to be neat and symmetrical, and I set about practicing, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. Practiced like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for nearly a year. And by the time that I was done with that, I was ready to post a particular picture. So the first coloring page that I offered, well, actually, the first coloring page that I offered was in October of 2015, I believe. It was just at the time that Joanna Basford opened up the world of adult coloring to all kinds of people. And the rest, as they say, is history. I am, I believe, 12 books in now. I'd have to actually get out and count, but I believe that I have released 12 books of my own, and I'm in at least 2 or 3 others that are compilations. I'm in both treasury books and a couple of others, and some magazines. But okay, so let's talk about these leaves that I'm coloring right now. These are two-tone leaves. I'm doing the part that I'm looking at that is away from the light in a darker shade, and then the part that will be toward the light in a lighter shade. And I'm picturing the light coming from about the top left up there, and just adding shading where I think that it ought to go. And now I'm using a lighter shade, which is the chartreuse. Before I was using the petitpole, and before that I was using the olivine green. So now I've changed to a different color, and I am using, this is the Aster Tataricus, and I'll go into a little bit about that leaf shading that I did on that first set, but you'll notice that I use lights and darks, and primarily what that is for is just to add a little shading, a little visual interest to the leaves so they're not all exactly the same color. And I was practicing sort of adding where light might be hitting the leaves and where it might be a little darker in shadow. Now, the other color that I'm using here is called Lavender Blue, and it is the R913. The Aster Tataricus, by the way, is the R826. Once again, I'm in the CaliArt Markers. If you have your own set of markers and want to do this, then by all means choose your own colors. There's no right or wrong. I'm coloring these as purple passion flowers because that is how I drew them. They could be any color that you want. If you want them to be red and pink, or yellow and orange, or all orange or all red, whatever, it is completely up to you. I just had a version of this drawing posted in my coloring group where she did her background in bright yellow and all of the flowers in various shades of burnt orange, and it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. She used browns for her leaves. It's just a really pretty piece. So once again, using the stroking method, and those are little stamens sticking out, and I'm going to, at the end of those, put little gold I don't know the part of the plant. The part where the bees come along and grab up the pollen off of. But for right now, they're just the darkest purple. Now, this is the blue-gray, and that is the BGO1, and I use that all over. And then I'm just using one of the greens, and that last color there was yellow ochre. darker greens around the inside edge. Now, I will end up darkening these up. This is the next day, and I am back. It's had a chance to dry, and I've decided that those pinks just aren't pink enough for me. So I stepped up, I looked at my pastel pink, and I went to the next color, which in this case is a vivid pink, which is the R607, and that is the color I am now using. And I like it better. I think it really sets off the reflection of the lighter part in a much more dramatic way. And now I'm back to the R503 pastel pink and just adding in some extra shading over the lighter spaces. And now I'm coming in with the next shade up from the lavender blue, which is the hydrangea, which is the R926. So I darkened the blue up as well. And now I'm going to come in, I'm going to narrow down those light spaces in all of the flowers. And that actually increases the curve so that it looks more like these are curved flowers. And I'm going to do the same thing eventually with the ones up above. And this is the second way of doing these leaves. I wanted all of the leaves to be the same colors on this piece, but I wanted to color them in 4 different ways. So this color is the G915 chartreuse green, and it is it's really a beautiful light olivey green and yellow green. And if you were trying to mix this, say, in watercolors, it would be your yellow greens mixed with a little bit of black, gives you olive green. So now I've got the pedipole, or no, actually I think I've got the olivine. Yeah, I think I've got the olivine. And the olivine is G743. And see how I'm leaving just a little bit of light space down each, the body of each leaf. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I do that all the way around. And that gives the impression of an entire different kind of leaf. You'll get a better look at that in a second. There it is. But now I'm using the, let's see, what am I using? I'm using the Y314 yellow and the, what is the other one? The Y713 salmon. So those are the 2 colors. I used the yellow, and now I'm using the salmon. That went really fast. This might be where I started speeding up the video. And it just adds that bit. I'm leaving a little bit of white space in the center of those petals. And that way it adds to the drama of the color. And I'll go in a little darker around the center with the, I believe, the yellow ochre. But that doesn't happen just yet. So we've got those covered, and now I'm going to show you a different way to color these leaves. And I'm just going to start out with the, let's see, I think I've probably got the pedipole in my hands. That's usually where I start. Although I may have the olivine. It looks like the olivine is there on the desk though. So I've got the pedipole, and I'm just coloring in some dark parts underneath where the shadows would be, and leaving, a space that I can use the lighter green. But these are primarily going to be a solid color, and I'm just going to use little bits of light. They're tiny leaves. I'll leave some sparkling white light on top just by not coloring a particular area. I do want to just say a word about the little musical interludes in that part. I did find that when I edited my voiceover to eliminate breathing spaces and things like that I did get a little ahead of the action on the screen that I did not want to leave out. So that is what the musical interludes are for, because I felt that the coloring was more important than anything I might have had to say. So let's see. Okay, that is the chartreuse. So I'm just using that to show the light, and I like the way that it turned out on the bud very much, because it does make it look like the light is shining on that bud. So now I'm starting with these back leaves, and I'm just pretty much picking a spot somewhere on the leaf and leaving a little white space just to give a hint of light dappling through, and like that one is up top, so it gets two. And you see what I mean about using the space, the white space of the page to create natural highlights. Now, if you mess up, or if you don't want to add, if you want to solid color these, that's great. If you mess up and don't leave some and you want some, you can do that with a white Posca. You can do it with an acrylic paint pen. You can do it with a glitter pen or a gel pen. You can do all kinds of things. You could color these, with glitter gel to begin with. Okay, so now I'm doing the centers, just using the Pedipole green, and I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, somebody please spell it phonetically for me so I can get it right. Adding a little chartreuse. Now I'll go in and I'll add that yellow ochre that I was talking about, and then I'm going to come in and darken the circle around, which gives the flower depth. And voila, that one is done. I really love those yellow daisies, but wait until you see what comes next. I love this one. This is going to be a red flower, and I think it is my favorite flower that I have colored recently, that is for sure. I'm using the yellow and just doing the veins, because there's no rule that says the veins have to be green. They can be yellow, and I miss a few here, and I'll go back and catch them. But I love this particular flower, and I really love the way this color comes out on it. This color, by the way, is Old Red, and that is what it's called. It is number 427, R427. And so I am quite literally just using the white space and, just sort of making my strokes leave a jig or zigzaggy type highlight across the top. But look at how gorgeous that color red is. CaliArt, I'm sorry, but that is a marvelous, absolutely marvelous red. I love red, and that one is a really good one. A really good one. On my Sunday show, I said I don't much care for red flowers. This one is the exception to that rule, because I really love the way this one turns out. And doing the buds as well, and I'm showing you these, in a sort of longer run of this one. If I have to let the music play, I will. But because of all of the different shapes, and there are several different little highlights that you can add. Once again, if you are more comfortable adding highlights with a Posca or a white gel pen, Uniball, whatever it is that you happen to have, you could use a glass pen with white ink or a white gel pen. It doesn't really matter. Or you could solid color them. Either way. But I perhaps it's just because I like this red flower so much. And I want you to see me color it. Anyway, I do hope that this kind of video helps all of you in your coloring. And if you were so inclined and wanted to leave me a note and let me know what you think about sort of tutorial type videos like this, as opposed to, conversational about, your life. I'm always happy to talk about my life. I try to do, it was a lot more interesting than it is these days, but I'm always up. I'm especially up for answering questions if people have them. I'm much more prone to answer your question in video form, or if you want to send me a private message, that's great, but please know that I don't get to all of them in as timely a fashion as I would like to, primarily because I just have a lot of different social media accounts that I'm monitoring, and it's hard for me to get to all of the different places. So I hope that you will bear with me if you do write to me. So now on this, I am using once again, the chartreuse green, and I am just coloring at the edge of these. These are going to be somewhat similar to like a coleus leaf or a two-tone leaf. They're going to be dark in the center with a very light edge. And all right, so that is the pedipole. And as I'm coloring, I'm realizing that it isn't quite dark enough, and I make coloring is experimentation. At least for me, it is experimentation. And so now I'm using the olivine, and I'm not enjoying the three colors. So I quickly will substitute the three colors for only two, the dark olivine and the, see how I'm just going right over that pedipole and just getting it right out of there. And I think it looks much better with just the chartreuse and the olivine green. And I will go on and do the rest of the leaves in that fashion with just those two. And there we go. Those are all done. Now to start with the jewel. And the jewels are going to be fairly easy. I'm going to do a gold frame around the outside. This is I believe the 314 yellow. And then I will also pull out the Y423 yellow ochre, which is more of a brown color. And so I'm still adding some of the yellow. Then I'll shade it with the brown, and it'll look more like an antique gold. A Y423, one of my favorite colors. I do love this yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is one of those workhorse colors. You use the heck out of it in your watercolors. I use it, or the equivalent of it, in my Inktense, and of course I put it to work in pretty much every CaliArt piece that I do. I do love alcohol markers. I have not yet met a coloring supply that I don't love, and some I love more than others. I like water mediums more than anything, but and of course I do love my colored pencils, but these markers are just incredible. They really are, and they're very, very quick. So you see how that we have a little visitor. That's my little cat Coriander sticking her nose in. She will, there she goes. She's going to hold the page for me, and she gets fascinated by watching me work, and she's a little sweetheart. She really is. And she does make it rather difficult sometimes. Okay, so now I'm using the Aster Tataricus, the purple, the dark purple, and the blue. And I believe that's what I did. No, I didn't. I used the hydrangea. I used the hydrangea, which was the R926 and the R913 lavender blue on those jewels. And I just used the same colors that are in the flowers around, and then I made the center jewels into the with the green. And I think if I had it to do over again, I would probably make the gemstones a solid color, or not a solid color, but all the same color in that centerpiece. But we live and we learn. And once again, when you do coloring, you make it your own. So I'm not unhappy with the result on this. And of course, making gemstones with your markers is fairly easy. There we go. I do hope that you enjoyed watching this particular video and that you will do this in your own coloring. Once again, this drawing is available in my Etsy shop, and it is just $1.50. So drag out your inks, your markers, and color something pretty. Thank you for watching, everybody. See you later.